Hi guys, today we're going to be listening to Pantera until I get the urge to beat my wife up. Let's do this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
What?
I love you.
That's the foundation. Thank you very much for coming out, guys.
Yo, hello everybody. Hoov11 here and welcome to another video of mine. This time, pretty soon after the latest one. A rarity seen on my channel in the last while, but pretty cool to see, right? After releasing my 40-minute breakdown video, it made me want to take this channel way more seriously, as I said right there. Even if there was not much discussion surrounding that, or at least as much as I hoped. But at this point, I don't even want to complain about it, because it is kind of an old subject. So, you motherfuckers stick with me or not. Your choice. I will still just do what I can and what I want, but you can expect more activity moving forward. Think this is a ghost last stand or something. Ghost as in, I'm not even sure even if this might be my last stand, I might not be sure about that, but hey, if you are either new or old to this channel and you haven't seen that video, please watch it. It's very important regarding about almost everything surrounding me and my artistic works, so you should definitely check it out. But let's discuss the topic we have today, and oh boy, I've been pretty excited for this one and I've been waiting for some time. And even though I've been having other bands or artists on my list that I finished the discographies earlier than this one, such as Deftones, Bring Me the Horizon, Massive Attack, and probably more that I can't even think of right now, I'm just in the mood of some Pantera. Actually, matter of fact, even then technically I've not finished their discography as a whole. What do I mean by this? Well, unfortunately, for maybe like 3 people watching this, I will not be including the 80s stuff. Letting you know, this out of the way. And I know there might be people asking themselves, but why? That's literally Pantera, you're cheating. Include their whole stuff. To put it bluntly, there are 2 reasons for why I'm not doing that. 1, even if it's Pantera, I don't care. It's success. Literally everybody with a sane mind who has listened to the whole discography of Pantera will put these at the bottom. So what's the catch here? Why would you want to see me tear these albums to shreds? Pretty sure you've already seen somebody doing it. 2, really, who the fuck cares? This is not the Pantera that we all know, and I don't see any reason for you to be stirring shit up over this for any reason. Nobody cares about these albums, especially Pantera themselves. So why should I and why should you? And okay, to be honest, I also want to make this a pretty short discography ranking as well. I don't have all the time of the world. God, it's getting harder and harder being an adult. Alright, enough of this. The 80s stuff doesn't even deserve any room in this discussion, really, because we're going to talk about the albums from their groove metal era. The ones that made them the powerhouse in heavy music they are today. They're often credited for being the inventors, or at least one of the first to do this genre and type of music called groove metal, influencing bands like Korn, Slipknot, and many others alike. They were an exceptionally huge band that even if they had a run of around 5 albums, they were consistently successful and appreciated and are often cited as classics in metal. I finished their discography just very recently, starting with Vulgar Display of Power in 2019 and finishing with Reinventing the Steel just this September. I have to say, I get all the respect and love the boys are getting, even if I heard lots and lots of metal. They have something unique that makes them Pantera, and God bless Phil, because I really feel like he saved this band. And of course, rest in peace, Dimebag and Vinny. And now, without this out of the way, this short introduction we had here of who Pantera is, I must clarify that I will not be including demos, EPs, or singles or whatnot. Just the classic 5 studio albums we know from Pantera that we all love and like, I guess. I'll be doing this in a similar format to the Slipknot one because I feel like that's the highest quality I can get to, at least so far. Let me know in the comments what you think, you silent ass bitches. But yeah, let's begin. Grab some popcorn and maybe make them slightly unseasoned, because this is sure gonna turn spicy. Let's see what we have on number 5. Reinventing the Steel. Ain't really reinventing anything. The last Pantera album, released in March 2000, is often cited as being their most mediocre album by critics and fans alike, and I happen to find myself in that camp as well. While not a bad album by any means, it is honestly so much less adventurous compared to literally every other album they put out, starting with Cowboys from Hell. It's Pantera by the numbers, which is not exactly an awful thing, because even what I'd call generic Pantera is still pretty cool. Again, the only shit they put out that I can call bad is probably their 80s stuff, and especially that god-awful 1985 album that I forgot the name of, and even if this is comparatively weak to the rest of the 90s stuff, it easily smokes that album. But it really makes me wonder, why did they choose this title for the album? Maybe it's in an ironic way? I don't know why nobody has mentioned this, anywhere at all. It really feels like there was no evolution in this coming from the great sound and Trendkill, but to be fair, how can you evolve from that? Which wasn't the case with the previous albums. There was a significant difference or something that made the albums feel like they were progressing into something with the other 4. That's not the case here. This feels like a combination between, say, Cowboys from Hell and Far Beyond Driven or something. I think I'm repeating myself or not saying anything of note, but that's kind of the thing. This album is a nothing burger. It's not a bad or even mediocre album in general, but I don't know. It just doesn't hit like the other albums. It's a good album, but I would not recommend this to anybody unless they're into Pantera or the groove or southern style they're usually known for. I would say though that Goddamn Electric, Yesterday Don't Mean Shit, Revolution Is My Name are all pretty damn dope songs. Don't know what else I can add about those. They hit, but they're nothing exceptional. And I'm mostly torn about the rest of the songs. They're not bad, just not as good at the same time. They have these moments sprinkled here and there where it takes you by total surprise, but it's not consistent throughout the song. Felt this way with It Makes Them Disappear. Like that song ranges from being boring as fuck to hard as all hell in an amount I've never seen before. And yeah, Hellbound, Death Rattle, We Will Grind an Axe for You, Uplift, all of these songs are not bad, but they can feel boring at times, and at some moments, or simply put, the songwriting presented in these songs is not as strong as the other 3. Alright, with that being said, again, I don't really understand the vision Pantera had here, because this is arguably their worst album from their beloved era, and I don't really see the reason of this existing, honestly. But alas, I will rate these by numbers, by the way, and I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10, which basically makes it pure B tier. At the same time, I'm gonna say where it would fit in a tier list, but not show you visually, or maybe I'll see at the end. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10 fits just right. That's really in my book the grade I'd give to something I consider to be pretty fucking good at times, but it doesn't really hold that for too long. And honestly, it still is better somehow than some other albums I put on the exact same range when rating, you know? Again, I wouldn't recommend this to everybody, but you might have a good time with a few certain songs. Let's move on. Cowboys from Hell, one of their most beloved albums, a total game changer and often called the first real groove metal album. Released in July 1990 to critical acclaim and what launched Pantera into stardom. Hell, they played in Moscow during this tour in 1991 before USSR fell. That's metal as fuck! So then, something might not seem right to you. Since I'm hopping on the dick of this album so much, then why do I have it as number 4? To put it shortly, Well, I think it's an amazing album with very few moments that mirror the lowest points of Reinventing the Steel, just because the album feels way more immature than what came out later. I really like it. I love the energy. I love Phil's vocals and Dimebag and Vinny's skill. It's all very fun. It has the most rock and roll feel out of all of these from the list, but that doesn't mean I'm the biggest fan of it, simply because I'm actually not a big fan of this sound in music in general. And you've already figured it out, the other three that have followed are higher than this on the list. That because I prefer the sounds they have evolved into afterwards, because you can say this sounds like the Grey Sound Trendkill whatsoever. I'm sorry, but again, some moments on this album are kinda ass sometimes, kinda lame for me, and it's kinda queer that they didn't completely abandon the hair metal or glam metal style they had in the 80s. And yeah, again, I'm not a fan of that era of theirs at all. Most notably, during the second half of the album, it just kind of becomes a bit boring. Also, even if in a way, I think that the production sounds cool, it does kind of lose its punch the more you listen to it, I feel like. Even for 1990, I mean, compared to the Black Album from Metallica, which sounds way more full and punchy, and an album that just came out a year later. The funny thing is that I listened to this album in 2020, and at the time, I only had listened to this and Vulgar Display of Power in full. And I think I might have preferred this over that one. Why? I legit can't tell you. Again, the very energetic and let's just destroy shit around here type of sound and style they have here is pretty captivating, at least initially, but it gets old kind of fast. But I would say for positives that it's cool to know that starting with this album they were trying to crave their place into the metal legend scene, which they deservedly have found. And songs like Cowboys from Hell, Damnation, Primal Concrete Sledge, Psycho Holiday, Cemetery Gates, Shattered, and I'll say even The Art of Shredding are all pretty cool. But again, as nice as those songs are, they don't really go to many places, or if they try to, I guess Medicine Man can be an example, it doesn't always work. I don't hate that song, matter of fact, I think it's pretty cool, but I'm feeling kind of mixed about it. Some other positives, Dimebag really was taking the spotlight from here for sure. And hot take, but Phil sounds pretty fucking awesome here. It wouldn't have fit if he continued with this style, but I would say that the Rob Halford styles, shrieks, or yells he had here are pretty badass. And he really sounds like he has so much energy. But yeah, even his later vocal style, I still do prefer. Overall, still a really great album, but not as great as many make it out to be, even though it's super influential. But remember kids, influential doesn't always mean top of the game. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10 for now, but honestly, I'm kinda unsure about this one. In the tier list, this would be placed on an A tier, maybe A- actually. But yeah, would I recommend this? Yeah. Actually, even if it's not my top 3, I would actually suggest, if you're trying to get into Pantera, to start with this album over the material they made in the 80s. The brain-eating worms transferred into audio stuff they have made. Yeah, great album, but not their best. Not by a long shot. Time back pun. Oh boy, Far Beyond Driven. One of their, if probably not the most interesting and perhaps divisive albums out there. And let me tell you, it's all for good reason. Released in March 1994, this finds Pantera at a pretty tense time in their lives. But not as much as the following album, but yeah, the signs were showing here already. With a significantly heavier and darker sound, craziest part about all this, I think we may all know, but I'll have to say it again because it's just that cool. Number 1 on billboards, baby. How? I don't know. Different times, I suppose. Vulgar Display of Power is arguably their most successful album, and lots of Pantera and metal fans were very hyped for this album. But there seems to be something wrong about it, since nowadays it doesn't seem to be that loved as Pantera probably intended it to be. Or maybe it wasn't back in the day either, but that I can tell you. So why is that? As I said, the album is quite different compared to Vulgar Display of Power. Even if at first glance they might seem like they're twins in some ways. I can't really put my finger on what's so different here exactly, even if I'm extremely sure about that, but I will say something. I will say that something within Pantera itself has changed. I mean, if you'd asked to put Vulgar Display of Power to expectations coming out of their fans, at least with Far Beyond Driven. But we can't go much in detail over this now. I can't really speak for the other fans, but again, even if you're kinda dumb, you can tell that there is something different about this album. So I'll just speak for myself now. This was the third album I listened to back when I started the 10th grade at my new high school in September 2022. God, I'm talking about it like it was 15 or 20 years ago or some shit. Matter of fact, I have some pretty vivid memories of when I did. And at that point, this was the Pantera album that hit me the hardest, and unsurprisingly, I guess, it was my favorite. Yeah, listen to it at the right time. 2 years after Cowboys from Hell, aka the last Pantera album I heard up until that point. I remember that was the week I started school and I didn't go for a few days, so I spent most of my free time listening to all sorts of albums. And among them, I heard Rob Zombie's Hillbilly Deluxe first, and then Sneaker Pimp's Bloodsport, and then this one. Hillbilly was my least favorite, and Far Beyond Driven was the bomb for me. I really liked it way more back then, and I still think it's kick-ass and shit. And I can't believe I'm already talking about it. So since I've showered and praised this album too, why is it just number 3? It is pretty inconsistent at times. Like, very inconsistent. Maybe more than just at times. This album does have some of their best songs for sure. Strength Beyond Strength, which I still regularly listen to and feel the same hype as the first time. Becoming is badass as all hell. That chorus riff is so punchy, for Christ's sake. 5 Minutes Alone and Unbroken are total classics, and what can I say? Big groove metal ragers. Also, really like Hard Lines, Sunken Cheeks. It is one of their first examples of the more fucked up and kind of depressing sound they adapted later on, and while the song, the lyrics are pretty cool and atmospheric and all that guitar solo, boy, why is nobody talking about that solo, paired with Rex's bass line and the fucking drums? Man, that's one of the best parts of the album. I also really like Throes of Projection's breakdown. I think it's one of the highlights on the album. Planet Caravan is honestly one of the best covers ever. Somehow, the atmosphere feels richer here than on the original. With all due respect to Black Sabbath, Rip Ozzy. And to be fair, for the most part, the album keeps me engaged. And I can't really say there are bad moments per se. Most of the tracks are good. Except Bottle of Pills. Now, as good as the album is as a whole, and without a doubt includes some of their best material, this song, unlike even the previous albums I ranked here, first time I'll declare, proudly, it kinda sucks. I don't get this song. It's just so often weird. Now, I get that's supposed to be the feeling Phil and the guys are meant to convey, but why would I listen to this? You can still make it sound more tolerable. Seriously. Oh yeah, all in all, this album is one of their best, and even though it sits in the middle of my ranking, I genuinely think it's one of the best metal albums of the 90s, and probably actually, people underestimate how huge this was, especially for the heavier genres, like for example metalcore. Slaughtered, another pretty great song that I forgot to mention previously. It sounds like a proto-metalcore song to me personally. Really great album, and I can still see why I'm so attached to this, even if it's not my personal favorite. It is very conflicting, disgusting but yet beautiful at times, which is quintessential Pantera. I will give this one a 9 out of 10 to be honest, but even though it would already enter the S tier category, I guess, I would probably give it an A+, because it doesn't really fit in my mind with it being placed there at S. As I said, it feels very conflicting and unstable at times, and I'm not even sure if that's intentional. So, maybe on a day it might be an S-, on another it might be an A+. But still, if you're not into Pantera, starting with this one, I'd say you should check it out. If you want weirdish, kinda, sorta experimental groove metal with traces you definitely find in most metal during the later half of the 90s and especially the 2000s. Now, starting with these two, we will be seeing the real deal. These two are the King Pantera albums for me, and definitely total classics in my book. Wasn't easy to pick for the number 2 spot, but I made up my mind, so let's talk about it. Alright, this is the album y'all have wanted me to talk about, I'm sure. Time Is Now. Vulgar display of power. Released in February 1992, it is arguably their most successful, appreciated, and popular album. One of the biggest 90s metal albums ever, up there with the aforementioned Metallica's Black Album, Judas Priest's Painkiller, and Megadeth's Rust in Peace, and many others. But none are close to the sheer brutality that Pantera is showing on this album. It's crazy to think how big this album actually used to be back then, and as I said, this album by itself is the reason why Far Beyond Driven managed to get to number 1 on billboards. Or at least I think so. What can I say? It's such a beloved album that many people before me have said most of the things in my mind about it anyway. This was my first Pantera album that I heard in full in 2019, and I liked it very much even then. However, as it's pretty clear, it is not the number 1 on this list. Although it is dangerously close. And I thought that I should begin by talking a little about the bad because there's plenty of good about it anyway. There's not exactly many flaws with this album, or at least not big ones. It mainly just doesn't really get to the level of the album I have number 1 on this list. There isn't a big difference between them, but I really think that one just does Pantera better. This album is still incredible and it's very big for very understandable reasons. We will get to what the differences are when we'll be talking about that one. But this by itself is probably what one would think Pantera can do at their best. And that's what I thought at some point, shortly after I realized that Far Beyond Driven might be their best, and boy, I'm glad I was wrong about both. I know my wording seems to be kinda strange as it sounds like I'm constantly pointing to the other album, like I'm blueballing myself and you guys too, but I swear I don't exactly know what's there to be talked about, to be kinda fair. It's kinda like how it was with Slipknot's self-titled in my ranking, also being my number 2 on that particular list. I didn't feel the need to be talking about it because it was such a legendary and seminal album for the band and genre, and while it had small flaws, overall they didn't mean much and the album as a whole was pure gold. But just like the one above this, it just gets to such a level it's almost insane. So, as you can see, the bad mostly stems from the fact that it doesn't do things as good as the one above it in this ranking. But that's literally where it stops. I honestly can't think of anything else. Production sounds dope as shit, Phil finally found himself and he adopted the tough guy bro persona since. Dimebag and Vinny show their groove and heaviness and chemistry here in a perfect way. And Rex is being Rex. That's not to take credit from him. He's still super talented and has some moments where he shines in this album. All of the songs are good, like really good, classics. The first 6 to 7 tracks of the album are a perfect run of songs in any album ever. Nothing else to add about those. But even the ones after, I think are still really great and worth a listen. Even Hollow, a song I didn't really care for ironically until recently, I realized is actually very awesome and I might prefer it over Cemetery Gates in some aspects. All in all, this album is not exactly overrated as some might dare to say, but neither underrated exactly. Almost everybody knows what it is and loves it, but nobody jerks their cock in arrogance or pride when talking about it, which is good, honestly. For me, this is a 9.25 out of 10 album, and it is S tier for sure. But I lean more towards an S-. But hey, this is still a really good score nonetheless. Very great album, and I definitely recommend it to many people. Maybe a metalhead or someone interested in the genre and style looking for something tough and heavy, but not overly brutal like whatever kids are cooking nowadays. A jock or gym rat that needs some very energetic music for them gains, or for when you grab that kid's money or whatever cliche I'll still practice in 2025. Even a nerd or weird kid or outcast that is just looking for something that you've never quite heard of before. This is the album for you. Classic forever. But there's only one album from Pantera that, in my honest to God opinion, beats it. And that is... Fuck yeah, man. Oh boy. The ultimate tough guy album, but whatever, man. It fucking kicks ass. The Grey Southern Trendkill, released in May 1996. This album has so much going for it, I don't even know how to begin. It was made during their most tumultuous time, for sure. It was getting worse and worse for them. So Far Beyond Driven wasn't the rock bottom, even if I said when I was talking about that album that it started there. This, right here, could have really been the end for the band. Now that I think about it, this album does really remind me of Slipknot's Iowa, since I just mentioned them an entry ago. And just like that album, while the previous albums were still angry and they still had, dare I say, lighter moments, especially on Cowboys from Hell, which totally rocked that literal rock and roll sound, here, I just feel the disgust and anger through and through, and the actual depression and despair, especially through Phil. On cuts like Suicide Note, both parts, the first part being a slower, ballady, almost country-sounding song where Phil reflects on the moment he almost died after overdosing on heroin. You're hearing a man here trying to end it all. He was long gone. Here he was talking about hurting himself while being a bit more calm and in an oddly relaxed way about it. On the second part though, it all comes crashing down. He's done for. And my god, what a damn heavy and devastating song, even for Pantera standards. The Suicide Note songs went on to influence Avenged Sevenfold with the I Won't See You Tonight two-part songs. I just realized that recently. And for damn, pretty good reason. These are among my favorites on the album. Although I'm gonna be honest and still say that Suicide Note Part 1 can be hit or miss for me. I mean, it's not a song I listen to regularly, so I'm not saying that I don't like it. I like literally every other song on the album. The title track, which is easily their most brutal album opener ever, and it's insane how fun and hard that song goes. The riffs are still southern but also so heavy at the same time. So we have the prime example here of them taking what they did with the previous albums but cranking it to 100. War Nerve is super groovy and I love those pinch harmonics. Goes crazy hard and that outro is skull crushing. This album barely lets go of you, I swear. Drag the Waters honestly has a bit of a new metal twinge to it, but it's so catchy and heavy and groovy. Peak Pantera. I believe this was the only single of the album, but I'm not sure. Dance is another dark and fucked up track, and it has something that I can't describe because it feels very different compared to many other Pantera tracks. But it sounds so badass and devastating. Feel sounds incredible here, I swear to God. What a powerful voice on this, man. Rest of the guys are on point as well, for sure. 13 Steps to Nowhere feels a bit like classic Pantera, and it's probably a bit lighter than the other tracks, at least to me. Feels a bit like combination of both Far Beyond Driven and Vulgar Display of Power. Living Through Me is similar to War Nerve, not much to say about it, but it's also a dope song. And now we have Floods, man. Floods is probably the best track from this album, dude. Wow, what a legendary track! I still haven't heard a single goddamn song like this one. I don't know what did they do, but they did it. Might be Down's influence through Phil here because this one just like tense, feels and sounds uncharacteristic for Pantera. The irony with this album is that as heavy and brutal as it is, it can be very soft and calm at times. Especially compared to the rest of Pantera's discography. And that's why I love it. It goes to such lengths never seen before from the boys, and in a weird way, call me crazy. It sounds like they're being more free here than on previous albums. Like, they didn't really give that much of a shit of what the public thought of them. But yeah, okay, I digress. Floods is amazing with that clean riff. Feels weird and unique vocals, those solos by Dimebag, and that hi-hat from Vinny's drum kit. And oh boy, we got another golden pair moment here, just like on Hard Lines and Sucking Cheeks, on the solo with Rex and Dimebag sounding like heaven together. God, this song is fucking perfect for almost 7 minutes that it is. It's insane how good it is. Only for this song alone, I should fucking kill y'all who have this below number 3 in their ranking, at least if not number 1. And then, just when you think that you've heard it all after the incredible floods, Pantera hit you with 2 of their most low-tuned and heavy songs in their whole discography. The Underground in America and reprise Sandblasted Skin. I feel like it works better if I talk about them together. These are so disgustingly heavy that it's funny. Just think about this. 4 years prior, Pantera were still playing in standard E for the most part, and then they made these songs in a time where almost nobody bothered with this tuning, especially from their caliber. I love listening to these 2 songs very often. They are so fucking hard. And I really love how the outro of the Underground America keeps you on your edge until Sandblasted Skin starts and then you're back to crushing skulls again. So yeah, man, I talked about every track because all of them are awesome. Seriously, if I didn't state this from the beginning because I lost my train of thought because I have so much to talk about this album from the moment I heard this, I knew it's their peak album. Back in July 2023. Then it was a cross between Far Beyond Driven and Vulgar Display of Power, but I interrupted that fight and I was like, nah, you two move your asses. Dude, the structure of the album, the themes, Phil's vocals, the fucking playing on this album, the production, dude. It's so much better even compared to Vulgar Display of Power. I know I did have a very big appreciation for the thin production they had on earlier albums, reminiscent of Metallica's Injustice for All, but this is just so much better. Just because I appreciated that, it doesn't mean I don't have to acknowledge what's actually good. Insane album, dude. There's also so much lore to this that I can't even include it here as much as I want to, so I suggest you guys read that shit off Wikipedia or something. But yeah, I think I'm done here. Everything is perfect on this album, or damn near perfect. For Pantera standards, this is more than enough, especially since they're not even in my top 15 bands of all time. And in a way, I can hear this album's influence here and there, but it's just not as clear as the influence from the other beloved albums from Pantera. I know for sure this shit is gonna influence my music though. So let's finish this. One of the best 90s metal albums of all time for sure, and this album is in my top 3 from 1996, 100% sure about that. However, it is not a clear 10 out of 10 because, Suicide Season Part 1 I'm not always that crazy about, as I said, it's probably my main complaint. And maybe somehow they could have thought of things that can somehow make this album better with the songwriting, especially. See, I'm being honest. Even if I love this album, I'm also honest that in a way, I don't know what they could have done. But it's not a pure 10 out of 10 album. It's a 9.75 out of 10 for sure, which is extremely close. And an S tier. Pure S tier. Love you, Pantera. Mwah. Yo, everybody. Glad you made it here. Yeah, the video is over. You have reached the ending of this video. Wow, this really took me a lot of time to make. Holy crap. Might have taken me more than the Slipknot one at this point. But to be fair, it's almost as long as that video as well, so that's actually surprising. And yeah, just like in that video, that's why I'm sounding like my normal and usual self, jumping over words and all that stuff, is because I'm not reading off script. But yeah, glad you guys made it to the end. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And as I promised, or I'm not sure if I exactly promised this, but hey, there you have it. At the end of the video, you have the rankings, both as a, top album ranking, and then I'll also leave an image of a tier list ranking. But yeah, guys, I really enjoyed making this tier list. I'm really glad I managed to do another one in almost a year. I really missed this, and aside from the fact that it really drained me out of all my energy in my life. I mean, it's freaking 3 AM right now, and I'm very exhausted. I mean, it's not the most quality video ever, but it's good enough. I guess I did it better than most other people in this category. Not trying to mention any names, but hey, I'm just gonna say this. I watched a lot of Pantera rankings and tier lists and whatnot, and oh my god, I've seen some very blasphemous takes, and that's actually one of the reasons why I felt the need for making this video in the first place. Like, Jesus, some of y'all really don't know what you're talking about. A big boy like me has gotta show you and teach you a lesson. Oh yeah, man, this Apple Peach vape is really good. But yeah, anyway, I don't want to hold you guys for too long. I really hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any other ideas for any other tier lists or rankings or whatever, anything related to music and categorizing these little shits from worst to best, just let me know in the comments. I'm gonna leave a list. Not a very long one, not a very big list, of a certain few artists and bands that I finished the discographies of, so just tell me in the comments which ones would you like to see from those moving forward. And yeah, I think that's it for now. This video is getting too long already. I'll catch you around, and yeah, love y'all guys. Thanks for making it here. And by the way, play some Clash and Silly Town, you idiots. No, really, play that game.